So, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the official reasons were blasted all over the world. But what if all of that was just a smokescreen? Today, we're going to go way beyond the headlines and dive into a really compelling analysis of the deeper, hidden motivations for this war.
All right, let's just jump right in. The question on the screen looks simple, right? But the answer? Oh, it is incredibly complex. It's tangled up in 1,000 years of history, 21st century economics, and what amounts to a desperate gamble for survival.
You've heard these before, I'm sure. They were on a constant loop. Russia was fighting Nazis, they were protecting Russian speakers, and they were stopping an aggressive NATO. This was the official story, the one presented to the world.
But here's the thing, according to the analysis we're looking at today, none of that was the real reason, not even close. It argues these were just carefully crafted distractions designed to hide something much, much bigger.
Okay, so let's start peeling this onion. The first layer isn't about modern politics or pipelines. No, this conflict goes back 1,000 years, to a shared beginning that eventually became a source of deep, bitter conflict.
Now, this slide shows that split perfectly. Look at this. You've got two paths branching from one single route, Kiev and Rus. Over on the left, you see Ukraine's journey. It was shaped for centuries by its ties to Poland and Lithuania, pulling it towards the west. But Russia's path, on the right, it took a hard turn under Mongol influence and it absorbed a totally different, top-down, imperial way of doing things.
And this is so cool. This slide makes that abstract idea totally concrete. Just look at the words they use. For Ukraine, on its western path, the word for money, groshi, comes from Polish. But for Russia, the word dengi actually comes from a Turkic-Mongol word. The language itself shows you the different worlds these two cultures were living in.
So here's the crucial point. A modern, independent, Western-looking Ukraine isn't just a political problem for Russia, it's an existential threat to its entire story about itself. And this quote from Dmitry Trenin just nails it. He says Russia sees it as the disintegration of its historical heartland, which leaves Russia itself feeling incomplete. For the Kremlin, this is about its very identity.
Okay, let's peel back the next layer. We're going to shift from the deep past to the near future. Because this isn't just a war over history books. It's a war for the resources that are going to power the entire globe for the next 100 years. You know, for decades, Russia has basically been a giant gas station masquerading as a superpower. Think about it. In the mid-2010s, almost half of its entire government budget came from selling oil and gas. But that business model is dying as the world, slowly moves on from fossil fuels.
It's a really important question. What do you do when the one thing you sell is becoming obsolete, and you haven't really built anything else? Well, you get desperate. And that desperation, this analysis argues, points in one direction: Ukraine.
And this table just lays it all out so clearly. On the left, Russia's past, oil and gas, old tech. On the right, Ukraine's future, lithium for batteries, rare earth metals for all our electronics, the whole shebang. One is the past, the other is the future. And just look at what's literally under the ground there. Ukraine isn't just the breadbasket of Europe, it's a treasure chest. We're talking about huge reserves of industrial metals, gas, and this is the big one, massive deposits of lithium and rare earths. The new oil. If you're a fading fossil fuel empire, getting your hands on that isn't just a bonus, it's survival. But there's another crisis driving this, one that's just as scary for the Kremlin as a failing economy. And it's this: Russia is running out of Russians. This chart, wow, it is just staggering. Look at that first bar from 1989. Right before the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia's birth rate was stable, right at the replacement level. Now, look at the second bar from the 1990s. It falls off a cliff, an absolute collapse. That created a demographic hole that Russia has never, ever climbed out of.
So, from a cold imperial point of view, what's the solution? Well, it's a brutal one. You just absorb Ukraine's 40 million people. They're culturally similar, they speak a similar language, and from the Kremlin's perspective, they're a quick, if horrifying, fix to Russia's demographic nightmare.
So now we get to the very core of it. All these other things we've talked about, the deep history, the future resources, the population collapse, they all feed into this final and maybe the most powerful driver of all: Russia's identity is trapped in its imperial past. And here's a critical piece of the puzzle that often gets missed: China. As the West sanctioned Russia, Moscow has become totally dependent on Beijing. They're selling their oil and gas at huge discounts just to stay afloat. Russia isn't an equal partner here, it's becoming a junior partner, almost a resource colony for China.
And to push back against that weakness, you can see this clear imperial playbook they've used. It's a pattern. Step 1, invade a neighbor like Georgia and freeze the conflict so it can't join the West. Step 2, do something similar in Moldova. And now, Step 3, the final, biggest play of all, a full-scale conquest of Ukraine.
Because Ukraine is different. It's not Georgia. It's not Moldova. It's the crown jewel. It's bigger. It's wealthier. It's more important historically than anywhere else. For Putin, taking back Ukraine is the ultimate test. If he can do it, the Russian Empire is reborn. If he fails, the whole imperial dream dies with him.
And that leads us to the final, really terrifying question. After all this devastation, all these catastrophic losses, why does this war seem absolutely impossible to stop?
Well, the source argues that Putin is caught in a series of traps that he built himself. First, there's his own personal legacy. He simply cannot admit that his life's biggest project was a complete and utter failure. Second, his inner circle. If he backs down now, he risks being overthrown by the very hardliners who wanted this war in the first place. And finally, the entire Russian economy has been rebuilt for war. Ending it now would cause a total economic collapse. He's trapped.
So his only strategy left is this: pure attritional warfare. It's a horrific strategy. He believes Russia, with its larger population, can simply take more losses, absorb more pain, and bleed for longer than Ukraine and its Western allies can. The plan is just to grind them down, no matter the human cost.
So, at the end of the day, the single biggest takeaway from this analysis is that this invasion, it wasn't an act of strength. It was an act of pure desperation. It was the last, violent, bloody gasp of a dying empire that is terrified of its own future.
And that leaves us with one last profound question. This war was started to save an empire, but it might just end up destroying the nation itself. The question is no longer just about whether Ukraine will survive, but whether Russia, as we know it, can.